I'm Justin Holmes, and this is a return address to President Barack Obama's February 7th, 2009 address. In his address, President Obama displays two general areas which I'd like to critique today. The first is in the way that he describes his perception of the economic situation and his solutions for it, the economic theories that underpin the current, movement by Democrats to take action on the part of government in order to solve the problem. The second area is in the way that he asks for action on the part of the American people, or the way that he asks the American people to support the government action. Now, I think that a lot of us who are the audience of President Obama's addresses, and maybe I don't know how many, but I think a pretty wide array of Americans are skeptical of the ability of government to fix the economy at all. President Obama typically uses phrases like, "We're going to put Americans back to work doing the jobs that we need done," which I think is an admirable goal, and I think that we all want to accomplish that. But a lot of us question whether or not government can do either of those things. I'm pretty moderate on the matter, and I think that there are some good things that government can do for the economy, but most of the time I'm more comfortable with the idea that the government is going to let smaller communities take care of themselves in that regard. So I think that it's important that President Obama address that concern in a more direct way. Also, I think it's problematic that we're suddenly talking about the economic crisis now, and of course there is an economic crisis now. However, there are millions and millions of people who've been living mostly in inner cities, but in some in rural areas as well, that have been suffering a horrible economic crisis for years, even decades. And I think that the communities that surround them have come up with some very good kind of fix-it solutions in some cases, and I think that we need to examine and stimulate that. And I don't feel that the overall attitude of our current revision of the American economic system includes that component, and I'm worried that once again poor people are going to be left out, both in the input of poor communities and what solutions work, and also just in the way that we measure the success of this program. And to me, a major way that we need to measure the success of the future of the American economy is whether or not there continue to be really, really poor concentrations of people. I think that as long as that's the case, we're doing something wrong. President Obama also says that he uses the phrase "same old," that the same old strategies aren't going to fix the problem, but it seems to me that in many ways this is the same old solution. I mean, at least for my lifetime, usually the solution to problems of economic distress is government action. Now granted, this is an enormous government action. You might even say this is a bigger version of the old, but it's not clear to me that a radical alternative has at least been considered. And I'm not saying that a radical alternative is what's necessary. I'm not an expert and I don't really know what's necessary, although people that are experts that I trust and believe seem to be divided on this issue. But I do think that it's necessary at least to go through the deliberative process and consider that. And I want to hear President Obama or other leaders really talk about the prospects of how communities and individuals who are driving the economy can move things in a positive direction, and not just about government action. And I'd like an acknowledgement of the skepticism that a lot of us have about government action. And I think that needs to lead, hopefully, if we're really going to have a healing of our economic wounds, it needs to lead to a more full discussion of the monetary system in this country, because a lot of us are very skeptical of the monetary system, of the Federal Reserve, and we want to hear a deep, deep discussion to the root of our economic system, so that we feel like we're on a track of really true sunshine. We feel like we're really going toward a place where we're going to have an economic system that we can believe in, and that when we go and exert our muscles and put our work in, that we're doing it in a way that is fair and is free. And I think that the deeper that discussion goes, the more likely it is that a wider array of people are going to be on board, and I think that that's very, very important. Now, the other part of the address that I think needs critique is the way that he asks us to exert our muscle, the way that he tries to stimulate us to action. A lot of it is through fear. He's using these phrases, which I haven't heard, and I guess, this is a very significant time, so economically it is a serious situation, so I'm sure, it does demand some ratcheting up of the rhetoric. But when I hear President Obama talk about a catastrophe, that if we don't act now, there will be a catastrophe. There's this very tight temporal element to it as well, that we need to act right now, or the consequences will be dire. And a lot of that is reduced to very narrow sound bites. I haven't heard, and I've been listening to President Obama, I've heard other addresses, and I've been listening to the congressional hearings on the matter, and I hear a lot of sound bites and some statistics, but I'm not hearing a more full, a more rich dialogue about really the whole array of economic problems that we have. And I think that it's important that we not be driven by fear and not be driven by this urgency, especially urgent fear. Frankly, it feels to me an awful lot like the way that we were rushed into war in Iraq. I think that a lot of the body language when I hear the president speaking, a lot of the tone of voice, a lot of it, and even the words that are used, a lot of it reminds me of that. And that's distressing to me because I do believe that this country is going in a more positive direction. I am excited about a lot of changes that are coming, but it's important to me that I feel like we've really gotten beyond the fear-driven support for government policies. And I want to be inspired to support what's going on, or inspired to be glad that there is less going on if that's what's necessary. And I think that that's very important. So for this address and hopefully for future addresses, I hope that President Obama will keep in mind that there's a lot of skepticism about the economic theories that seem to be dominating the so-called that are dominating in really every aspect of what the administration and Democratic leaders in Congress are saying. I hope that they will reach out and really try to kind of engage people that are skeptical of those economic principles, or that have other economic ideas. Let's have a really deep discussion. And then second, and I think maybe more importantly, let's try to really refrain from using fear to motivate action. Let's try to be really inspired in our action, and I'm very excited about future addresses from President Obama, and this is only his third one, and I think he has gotten better already, and I know he's dealing with a lot of this, a lot of baggage from this economic crisis, so hopefully there will be a lot of great addresses to come, and I'm looking forward to them. I hope that you are too. I'm Justin Holmes, and this is Return Address TV. Thank you.